Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopidana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Prahladananda Jaya Prahladananda. Yasodanandana Prahladananda Jaya Prahladananda. Yamuna Tiravachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopidana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Gopidana Baba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Prahladananda Jaya Prahladananda Yasodananda Prahladananda Jaya Prahladananda Yamunadiravachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamunadiravachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamunadiravachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Sham Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadacharya Asadhara Siddhushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ida Gaur Premanande Haribol Slava Zabrani Bhakti Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyade Siddharane Om Agyana Tivanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Tadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shigaro Shiyuta Padakamalam Shigaram Vaishnavam Scha Shirupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakanzvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhana Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, The Atrocities of King Kamsa, text number 20. Yatanevam vido bedo Yata atma vipayaya Deha yoga viyogo cha Samsritirana nivartate Yatanevam vido bedo Yata atma vipayaya Deha yoga viyogo cha Samsritirana nivartate. Yoga viyogo cha samsitirna nivartate yata as ana eva evam vida of a person who has no knowledge about Atma Tattva and the steadiness of the mind in his own identity, despite the changes of the body. Veda, the idea of difference between body and self. Yata, because of which. Atma viparya, the foolish understanding that one is the body. Deha yoga viyogo cha, the causes and commitment and separations among different bodies. Samsmriti, the continuation of conditioned life. Na, not. Nivartate, does stop. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life, otherwise one is liberated. Please repeat. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of the attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from society and from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. Purport. As confirmed in the srimad-bhagavatam 1-6, Savai pumso paro dharmo yato bhaktira hokshaje ahaitukya pratiyata yatma suprasidati. The word dharma means engagement. One who is engaged in the service of the Lord, yato bhaktira hokshaje, without impediment and without cessation, is understood to be situated in his original spiritual status. When one is promoted to this status, one is always happy in transcendental bliss. Otherwise, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one must suffer material conditions. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha nudarshanam. The body is subject to its own principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. But one who is situated in spiritual life, Ito Bhaktira Hokshaje, has no birth, no death, and no old age, and no disease. One may argue that we may see a person who is spiritually engaged 24 hours a day, but is still suffering from disease. In fact, however, he is neither suffering nor diseased. Otherwise, he could not be engaged 24 hours a day in spiritual activities. The example may be given in this connection that sometimes dirty foam or garbage is seen floating on the water of the Ganges. This is called nira dharma, a function of the water. But one who goes to the Ganges does not mind the foam and dirty things floating in the water. With his hand he pushes away such nasty things, bathes in the Ganges, and gains the beneficial results. Therefore, one who is situated in the spiritual status of life is unaffected by foam and garbage or any superficial dirty things. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Ihayasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikilasya abhapsapsu jivan mukta sa uchate. Person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, and words is a liberated person even within the material world. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-187. Therefore, one is forbidden to regard the Guru as an ordinary human being. Gurushu Nara Matira Naraki Saha. The spiritual master or acharya is always situated in the spiritual status of life. Birth, death, old age, and disease do not affect him. According to the Hari Bhakti Vilas, therefore, after the disappearance of an acharya, his body is never burned to ashes, for it is the spiritual body. The spiritual body is always unaffected by material conditions. Translation. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Satarane. According to this verse, lack of knowledge leads to attachment, and attachment leads to becoming too much affected by material identification, which means continue on with the material existence. And on the other hand, there is a pure devotee who's unaffected by material existence. That's our aim, is to become a pure devotee. The worst thing is to think we're a pure devotee when we're actually not a pure devotee. It's like trying to walk from here to Porto Rose and take 3 steps and think we were already there. We're on the road to Porto Rose, but that doesn't mean that we're there. If we continue on, eventually we'll get there. Therefore, some tests might be there if we're attached to our family, our friends, our nation, and what to speak of this body. So we have to question, do I have any attachment to this body? Now, if we do have some attachment to these things, we shouldn't lament, oh, I've been in the Hare Krishna movement for at least 3 years and I'm still attached. How is this possible? I thought it was a quick process. It is actually inconceivably quick progress, considering that Brahma, his lifetime is 311 trillion 40 billion years, and he only lives for an exhalation of Mahavishnu. So if we can make it back in just one breath of Mahavishnu, then we'll be back in the spiritual world very quickly. On the other hand, there's the process of becoming unattached to material existence by becoming attached to spiritual existence. The problem is that we may not believe in spiritual existence, because that's the job of the illusory energy, is to keep us doubtful. Material nature, of which we're under, it's not that we might fall into Maya sometime. We've already fallen into Maya. And Maya's job is to make us doubtful all the time. As I mentioned before, even when Daksha was completely in ecstasy, seeing Lord Vishnu coming to offer him a benediction, he was so much in ecstasy he could hardly stand. But when Lord Vishnu asked him what benediction he wanted, he said, I want unlimited sex life. So one moment he's in ecstasy, the next moment he's completely in a state of forgetfulness. So that's material existence. As soon as we try to turn our face to Krishna, then we get some transcendental experience, hopefully, transcendental awakening of knowledge, of realization, some feeling of at least freedom from distress, and then as soon as we become a little proud that I'm so advanced, then immediately we're in Maya again, struggling, wondering, how did I ever get here? Where am I anyhow? Therefore, it's a question of developing, beginning with humility, amaditvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, arjavam. So that's a struggle. Just to become humble is a struggle, because we believe we're so advanced, we're so important, we're so intelligent, and yet we don't even know who we are. And even worse than that, we don't really care who we are. We care about what I'm going to become in the material world. We don't care who I am eternally. I'm worried about what am I going to be in the material world. So that's called Maya, illusion. And then when we see an advanced devotee like Srila Prabhupada, because we're in the bodily concept of life, we judge things from the bodily concept of life. But one has to, as it says in the Nectar of Instruction, one has to see the value of becoming completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, 24 hours a day, being engaged in Krishna service, and therefore naturally thinking about Krishna with devotion. And as mentioned in this verse from the Nectar of Instruction, Drishtai Svabhava Janitera Vapusasta Doshar Ne Prakritatvam Na Iha Bhakti Janasya Pashet Gangam Basam Na Kalu Bud Buddha Pena Pangar Brahma Dhruvatvam Abhigachati Nira Dharmai. That being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, pure devotee does not identify with the body. So that's what we want to try to get out of the bodily concept of life. Is not possible just by trying to get out of the bodily concept of life. We can utilize our little intelligence and perceive how the body's changing, but we're not changing. That may give us some insight of the fact that we're eternal, but being an illusion, we can't take advantage of it. In other words, although I may be an illusion, still I'm afraid of what's going to happen to my body. Although I'm eternal, I am afraid of what's going to happen to my body, as if that is the most important thing in my life. What's going to happen to my body? Well, I can tell everyone exactly what's going to happen to their body. As I said before, I'm an expert palm reader. Does everyone know palmistry here? Well, I can teach you palmistry. I can teach you exactly what's going to happen to you. How many devotees here would like to find out their future perfectly? At least one. So here you have a palm. Everyone has a palm. So look, this is the index finger, and then there's a line between the thumb and the index finger that goes down. Does everyone have one of those lines? Lamachita. I think his line is disappearing. Check and see if you still have a line. So you see that starts between the thumb and the middle finger, and it starts going down. Can everyone look? And it goes down and down and down and down, and then what happens? What happens, Nitya Seva? What's that? It stops. That's your future. That's as far into the future as I can see. That's Nitya Lila. That's Antya Lila. So everyone has that line and it stops, and still we're thinking maybe I can just get a knife and maybe cut it a little bit more. And the Yamadus are coming, wait a second, oh, you can't take me now. So that's the future of this body, and we've had so many bodies, but we're worried what's going to happen to my body. Everyone knows what's going to happen to their body, but we're thinking that this is the most important thing in my existence, is what's going to happen. When am I going to become rich? When am I going to become famous? When am I going to become successful? When am I going to become this or that, rather than becoming myself? So the secret is to hear about Krishna. Hear about Krishna, and hear about the process of how to hear about Krishna in such a way as that we become Krishna conscious. Because we already have some capacity to hear already, but it may not be adequate to actually even think about Krishna. And there are different stages of thinking about Krishna. There's a stage where we'll remember Krishna's form, but that's also not, it's nice. It's better than remembering other things. But actually what we want to do is feel Krishna's presence. Because if Krishna is the nature of bliss, if his body is made out of bliss, to feel Krishna's presence means to feel bliss. Pleasure, transcendental pleasure, which goes on, which is eternal. So that's what we really want to do. But of course, generally speaking, if we concentrate our minds upon Krishna's form, then we might develop, Krishna might give us the intelligence by which we can feel Krishna's presence also. Not only Krishna's presence, but the nature of Krishna's associates are all the nature of pleasure. Because that's what they're made out of. They're made out of knowledge, consciousness, and pleasure, love, eternally. As a matter of fact, everything is made out of Krishna's energy, and therefore everything has its aspect of pleasure. Even the material nature is eternal, but the forms are temporary. And although the forms are temporary, they still have the same nature as Krishna. But the thing is, our consciousness is covered, and our consciousness is covered not because constitutionally we have a covered consciousness. It's not a natural position to have a covered consciousness. We're actually in an unnatural position. But why are we covered? Because we're choosing the wrong things. In other words, in the human form of life, we have a choice to choose the process of remembering Krishna, hearing about Krishna, trying to concentrate our minds upon Krishna, trying to understand what's been said, then try to apply it with some conviction, what we've heard. Not that I heard this, but I'm not so clear, it's not so doubtful, I don't know if it's true, I don't really know if I want to do it. And therefore that's what we get, so a wavering consciousness. It's like when they have the opportunity, if they left the devotee alone in a room, and they put the srimad-bhagavatam on one side, and a whole bunch of magazines on the other side, and closed circuit television to see where the devotee goes. He looks at the Bhagavatam and goes, oh, I read it. And he sees the magazines and his eyes grow wide. So that's our choice, what we want to hear about to begin with. And then we hear about it, we think, oh, this is, man flying around on a swan with 4 heads. I mean, this is too much. I don't know if I can really get into this. Of course, I'm supposed to be a devotee, so of course I believe it all, sure. And then when we get into the aspect of applying it, everything is Krishna's energy, everyone is Krishna's servant, I have to tolerate my material existence. I mean, this is too much. I have to tolerate these weird people I have to deal with all the time. And believe that they're Krishna's servant. Not only that, try to become their servant. They're antagonistic towards me, I don't like them, and I have to become their servant. This is ridiculous. To actually be interested in helping others become Krishna conscious, because that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's direction to us, is that whoever we meet, we should try to help them become Krishna conscious. Not that the people we like, we have a nice relationship with them. We take ice cream and pizza together, so we're friends. No, to actually be interested in helping others become Krishna conscious. That's real friendship. Of course, we can share prasadam together, that's also part of the process. But the idea was, if we're convinced that Krishna is God and I'm his servant, then we should serve Krishna's mission. And he has only one idea, to help others become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, if we don't have the same mission as Krishna, we don't have the same purpose of life, of existence as Krishna has, how do we expect to become Krishna conscious? Are we going to be the only ones in the spiritual world trying to please Krishna? Or the only one who doesn't want to please Krishna in the spiritual world? We're still trying to find out what the Saka scores are back in Slovenia. Is that how we're going to become Krishna conscious? No, we have to have the same. If we want to enter into fire, we have to become like fire. Otherwise, we'll get burnt. If we want to enter into the water, we have to become like water, or else we'll drown. So we want to become Krishna conscious, we have to become the same nature as Krishna. The same, and to do that, we have to have the same purpose as Krishna. Now, we may not feel overwhelmed, compassion towards all living entities, but we should feel at least some compassion towards ourselves. If we don't realize what a horrible, dangerous position we're in, we'll think everything's all right. No problem, I'm doing well. We're not even compassionate towards our own selves. That's our problem. We think we're doing all right, because my material existence is not so bad, therefore I'm good. Actually, as soon as we think like that, we're really bad. And if we think I'm suffering, my material position is very dangerous, then although spiritually speaking I may not be very elevated, but I'm in a much safer, better position than I was when I thought everything was all right, or I didn't think. I wasn't even conscious of what was going on. I just kind of exist between my bed and Prasadam hall. No, we have to become a little compassionate towards the self, a little fearful that I'm in a dangerous position called the material world, and unless I take shelter of Krishna, my life is going the wrong direction. Therefore, we have all these programs to try to engage us in Krishna service, so that we wake up a little bit. Otherwise, the material nature is with us all the time, and it's always inviting us to do so many different things, which may not be very helpful to helping us remember Krishna. But if we do remember Krishna with conviction, by serving Him, by the same mission as Krishna, utilizing the energies Krishna has given us, and try to utilize it for our own spiritual advancement, and for the spiritual advancement of others, then Krishna might appear within our minds if He sees that we're sincerely trying to become conscious of Him. We're not just working for the sake of working. We're working so Krishna is pleased with us, so He reveals Himself within our heart, and we remember Him. And then eventually we experience Krishna. And then we actually act simply to please Krishna in loving exchanges with Krishna and His devotees, and then we try to develop the character of a pure devotee. Then Krishna will bestow upon us all good qualities by becoming identified with Krishna's internal energy. Then, in that state, as it says, what does it say? What is that first word of the verse? Anyone can read my mind? Let's see. Oh, it's chapter 14. Prakasham cha nivritim cha janana vidor asura. No. Prakasim cha nivritim cha moham eva chapandava nidveshti samparitani ninivritani kankshiti udasinadvat asino gananav nivartate gunavartanta ityevam yovatishtate nangate samaduka sakaswasta samalo srasma kankshana tuya priya priya diras tuya nandatma samsiti mama pamanyo tulyas tuya nandatma samsiti. Is that right? Tulya mitrari pakshayo savaramba prityagi gunati taksa uchate. So prakasham cha nivritim cha. One who's not attached when he attains illumination, or when he obtains prakasham cha nivritim cha, attachment. One who does not hate illumination, attachment, delusion when they're present, nor longs for them when they disappear. Who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, looks upon a lump of earth, a stone and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. In other words, one who's actually living in his heart with Krishna, that one can actually come to a platform where one is living in the spiritual world, even in this body. And in that state of mind that one is not overwhelmed by hatred or happiness under different material circumstances, because one realizes that he's living in reality and that what's going on in the material world is more or less a dream or a play or an act, whatever is going on. And that his part is simply to please Krishna, to act as an instrument for Krishna, and that whatever Krishna wants, because he's directing the show, that will go on. So he's not so much concerned about the external show in the material world, except that he's happy to be an instrument for Krishna, to spread Krishna consciousness, and to show an example of Krishna consciousness. But whatever part Krishna wants him to play, he's happy to play it. But inside, he's actually awakened to his real identity, and he's engaged in Krishna's service in the spiritual world, along with other Krishna's servants. Then Prabhupada gives the example of the coconut. The coconut, if you shake it, you can't hear anything. When the coconut becomes ripe, the inside falls out, and you can actually hear that there's a difference between the coconut and the inside of the coconut, the shell. So when we actually become fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, by following the process, hearing, then assimilating the knowledge, trying to understand it, trying to apply it with conviction, in other words, knowledge, perspective, conviction, skill in loving exchanges with Krishna, and then developing the character of a pure devotee, becoming a perfect instrument for Krishna's mission. Then one's life is gradually becoming successful. Now, if we don't have the character of a pure devotee, then we can take one step back and see if we can develop skills in our relationships with Krishna and his devotees. And if we don't have that so much, then we have to develop conviction that I should try to serve Krishna in any circumstance. And if we don't have that, then at least we should try to develop perspective, try to see things, what's going on here. So I can develop I know what to do, so I can get some experience in Krishna consciousness, so that gradually I can develop experience, which will lead to conviction. And if I don't have that, at least I should try to get some knowledge. I should become interested in who I am. How can I understand who I am? How can I understand where I am? How can I understand so many things? So that I can see it, so I can act on it. And if I act on it, then gradually if I get a little bit experience, conviction will develop. And from that conviction, then skill will develop, especially in bhakti. And when I get skill in bhakti, then spontaneously I'll have the same desire as Krishna to become more and more skillful in bhakti. which is an eternal skill. Even in the spiritual world, Krishna and his devotees are eternally developing that skill of loving exchanges. It never stops. It only gets better. So all knowledge, all perspective, all conviction, all skill is all meant to develop loving relationships with Krishna and his devotees. So if we start from there, then we'll be doing quite well. And everything else will follow. In other words, just go and padayatra. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just chant happily, don't worry about anything else. And then all these things will develop. So, you didn't really have to hear the class. Just had to go. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes. Microphone.
It says if we are attached to this body, family or nation, then material world has influence on us. And how can we have family and not be attached to that family?
How do we have a family and not be... Well, see it as Krishna's family. It's not our family, it's Krishna's family.
Krishna's children, it's not our children, it's Krishna's children.
Everything belongs to Krishna.
Okay, yeah.
Even this body belongs to Krishna.
Yeah.
So it's not our family. It's not that we neglect the family, but we understand, just like you may have a car, you may be driving a temple car, so it's not that you just blindly close your eyes and just drive the car. Whatever happens to the car, it's not your car, so you couldn't care less. No, it's Krishna's car, so you take care of it nicely, and you utilize it for Krishna's service. So the family is also Krishna's, and this body is Krishna's, so we utilize it nicely for Krishna's service. And that means not just externally, but also internally. In our original position, in relationship to Krishna, we love everyone. So our family is also Krishna's servants, serving Krishna. So we love them as Krishna's servants too.
Okay, and then if we love our family, that don't mean we are attached to that family.
If we love our family in relationship to Krishna, then we're attached to Krishna. And we're attached to Krishna.
Thank you.
We're attached to serving Krishna. So whether we're serving our family or we're serving others, then we're attached to pleasing Krishna. Therefore, one is even more expert at serving the family. Because when it becomes expert serving Krishna, one will also be expert serving the family in every respect. Physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. Anything else? Hvala Grantaraj Srimad-bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.